Hello, good evening to you. Welcome to Business Now. And Chief Executive Officer of the Nations Builders Corps, NABCO, Dr. Anyas Ibrahim, says the flagship program will be weaned off government funding by the end of its third year of existence. Government has so far pumped 3 billion cedis of taxpayers' money into the payment of allowances of all 100,000 NABCO employees. Speaking at the sidelines of the graduation of 100,000 NABCO recruits at the Black Star Square in Accra a while ago, Dr. Anyas Ibrahim explained the private sector will absorb at least 50% of the cost as the program matures. He spoke with Charles Aiti.
Future has sustenance in terms of its reliance on the private sector, not heavily dependent on the public funds. And I believe that for us, the value will be in some of the contributions that are made to the placements within the state enterprises, but as well as the private sector. And I think that we should watch this space. Something innovative is happening here. In the final year, which is the third year, we expect those companies to demonstrate capacity to absorb a minimum of 50% of the NABCO trainees. So the very first 6 months is key. They would have to return to us the 50% they are not able to absorb so that the NABCO can plan their exit smoothly.
Away from that, the Ghana Statistical Service has estimated year-on-year growth rate of the economy, including oil, for the second quarter of the year at 5.4%, even though it could be a slow growth as compared with the figure recorded in the same period last year, which was 11.1%. Acting Government Statistician Dr. Ba Wadie explains it is as a result of the base year and expansion in the economy between the periods.
Real gross domestic products for the second quarter of 2018 grew by 5.4% year-on-year. The quarter-on-quarter growth estimate provides a picture of the current economic development in the country as compared to the previous year. According to the acting government statistician Dr. Ba Wadie, there was a significant growth in the oil sector in the second quarter of 2017 due to the coming on board of 10 fields after the ETLOS ruling.
The quarterly growth rates from the second quarter of 2017 to the second quarter of 2018 is 5.4%.
Meaning there was a decline in the growth. Is that the case?
Once it's positive, it means there is growth.
As compared to the last quarters?
Yeah, in terms of the figure for the last year's second quarter, I think the growth rate recorded was higher, but this figure is growth upon the figure we had for the second quarter of last year. Even though the rate is lower, it is still positive.
The industrial sector led the growth rate with 11.1%, followed by the agricultural sector rate of 4.8% and services as well at 0.5%. Meanwhile, provisional growth without oil for the quarter stood at 5% as compared to 6.7% for the same period the previous quarter. Meanwhile, the producer price inflation rate for September was 5.6% compared to 7.5% same period last year. This was a 1.4 percentage points reduction in producer inflation relative to the rate recorded in August 2017, which was 7%.
The year-on-year inflation rate in ex-factory prices of goods and services was 5.6% in September 2018. That is, the ex-factory prices of goods and services for all industry increased on average by 5.6% in September 2018 relative to the price level recorded in September 2017. The monthly change rate was 0.4%. This means that compared to August 2018, the producer price index increased by 0.4% in September 2018.
The services sector contributed the highest rate of 48.4% to the share of growth, with industry contributing 35.1% and agriculture 16.5%.
Now, an expert is calling for partnership to be rolled out affordable housing projects A housing petitioner says broader consultation and partnership with government's plans to roll out affordable housing projects is necessary. Dr. Kwadwo Ohene Safo says it is impossible for government alone to shoulder the initiative. He spoke with Joy Business at the 30th anniversary public lecture by the Ghana Real Estate Developers Association GREDA on the theme 30 Years of Housing the People, celebrating the successes and forging closer relationship to chart a new path for sustainable housing delivery. Here's more in this report.
The country's housing deficit is still hovering around 2 million housing units, a situation that Dr. Ohene Safo says requires a collaborative effort to handle. He believes the responsibility for affordable housing is a shared one.
Like I've said, you cannot use the traditional methods for housing to achieve it, so you need to work through partnerships. Who are the kinds of partners you need? You need to work with the potential beneficiaries themselves. They need to be part of the process of the planning, the thinking through of it. Of course, the state must work. The state, both the central government and the local governments. Because, as they say, all housing is local. You cannot get housing done when the local governments themselves are not involved in it, because they are better equipped, they know better the needs of the people than central government from where it stands. You have to also look at what technology you are using, what materials you are using, which of the materials allows you to be able to go lower than what the market is able to deliver. So you have to bring on board the research organizations and institutions. And in Ghana, we have the BRI, the Building and Road Research Institute, as one of them. So it takes stringing all these things together to be able to deliver on the affordable housing.
The housing practitioner also indicated that the country needs in excess of 10 billion cedis to bridge the housing deficit.
Quite clearly, in terms of the spend, we are already in the tens of billions of cedis that we need to keep the housing system functioning effectively. So, I could give you the hard figures and so on, but just to bear in mind that we're already way beyond 10 billion cedis.
On his part, council member of GREDA, Kojo Baini, says the association seeks to leverage its 30 years experience in real estate development to reduce homelessness to the barest minimum.
We expect to house the people of Ghana. And so we aim to provide you homes, for instance, where you can live in dignity. Okay, so that's what our mission is. And we've gone a long way to fulfill part of it, but there's a lot more to be done. And we look forward to, the next 30 years where we can probably say, we won't have any more people sleeping on High Street and so on.
The 30th anniversary public lecture was on the topic, Affordable Housing for the People of Ghana, a myth or a reality? Bismarck Ewusa's report for Joy Business.
The Ministry of Trade and Industry wants the Ghana Exim Bank to be moved from the Ministry of Finance to the Ministry of Trade. Deputy Minister of Trade Carlos Ahenkra says this would help provide the needed financial support to develop the export sector. He was speaking at the 78th National Exporters Forum held here in Accra.
The Ghana Exim Bank was set up by Act 911 in 2016 to facilitate the country's international trade and promote capacity and competitiveness in the international marketplace. It currently resides under the domain of the Ministry of Finance. However, Deputy Minister of Trade and Industry Carlos Ahenkra has noted that the only way to see the effectiveness of the bank is by shifting it from the Finance Ministry.
Ghana Export Promotion Authority cannot operate effectively if the funding component is not there. What we expect to do as a government, or what we expect to do as a ministry, is to ensure that the Export Promotion Authority will be able to identify buyers of products from Ghana who are not sure of exporters in terms of having confidence in them to as it were, advance capital to them, to open up LCs on our Exim Bank, for Exim Bank to support these exporters to export after production and being the beneficiaries of these LCs. If this happens, we would have a cycle where our own Exim Bank will not need any guarantees apart from the LCs itself, but we're able to support farmers or be able to support exporters to produce and send their goods out of Ghana without too much hassle.
And just before we go, here's a piece of information from the Telecoms Chamber, and it says the Ghana Chamber of Telecommunications, on behalf of its members, Airtel Tigo, MTN and Vodafone, wishes to notify its esteemed customers and the general public of tariff modifications following the implementation of the new tax laws. The government, as part of the 2018 mid-year review of the budget, amended the acts referenced. Now, the objective was to give effect to the conversion of NHIL and GET Fund levy into levies that are not subject to the input-output mechanism and delinking them from the VAT by removing the option of input tax deductibility, thereby giving both levies a unique and different legal identity and distinguished from VAT. Our members, who are responsible corporate entities, would comply fully with Ghana's laws and ensure the distinction between the VAT and the new levies emanating from their separate origins and basis in law. As intended, the incidence of the two new levies will thus be on consumers and will result in the increase of the cost of telecommunications services. Customers of telecoms services will be notified by their service providers prior to any changes being made, and the expected changes will take effect on the 1st of November 2018. The telecoms industry remains committed to full transparency and accountability to both the government of Ghana and their customers, and is signed by Kenneth Ashigbe, CEO of the Ghana Chamber of Telecommunications. And of course, we will be delving more into this particular development in our subsequent bulletins. But for now, that's it for business. My name is Emmanuel Apwaji. We have a good evening.